Welcome to the Aging Better podcast brought to you by Jazda Care. I'm your host, Evan, and in this podcast, we're looking at all things aging and especially living well.
My name's John Riley, and I'm an aged care physiotherapist, been working in the industry for over 30 years, and our podcast is all about longevity and quality of life.
So let's explore how we can age better together.
Welcome.
All right, we are back.
We are back.
And we're excited to be back. And we are talking about something that is very serious, but hopefully we're not lightening it, but we want to make it, a little bit more accessible to people.
Yeah, and make a bit of sense. There's a lot of stats,
yes,
and a lot of detail in studies, but we want to try and make sense of it for all of us, whether you're a health professional or not, and the practicalities that affect really all of us and really, a lot of people we know, people in our family and our extended world who are in their more senior years.
So if we're looking for a title, the title that we came up with was The Accident That Changes Everything. But I was toying with another one. The other one that I had was The Hips Don't Lie, Shakira. But I decided that we would go with the previous rather than the second one.
Yeah.
So it's the accident that changes everything. What is the accident that changes everything? What's going on?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we're talking about a hip fracture.
Wow.
You might think, that's not common.
Yeah.
That's not going to affect me. But we've got some stats here that might shift your thinking otherwise, and
it's
should really
alarming.
It's an alert.
Yes,
it's a red flag. It's an ambo, thingo.
And I think it brings into light all the other stuff we talk about falls. We're talking about. I feel like we're rabbiting on about falls all the time, but falls can end up with huge impact if if not handled well. So
definitely.
So one of the primary impacts of falls are hip fractures, and hip fractures have huge impacts on every area of your health. From that.
Yeah, I think you'd have to say it's the worst, most common thing that can happen from a fall. I mean, a lot of things happen from a fall. You can fracture your wrist, fracture your shoulder. You can fracture your neck. If you hit your head on the way down, people can fracture that. There's some very nasty things can happen. But the most common thing as we age is to fall and topple. There's a reason that we fall on our hip, and it's not a great reason. It's a reason. The fact is that we are less flexible, less able to respond to the trip hazard that's, happened in front of us. And we tend to topple like a building, like a tree almost, and land on that first thing that hits the ground is our hip. And what we say is a fractured neck of femur. The neck of femur is the most likely thing to fracture, just the nature of the biomechanics as you land on your hip in that way. So they're pretty nasty.
So, I was watching football yesterday. There's all these guys falling over, 100 times a game, and they're not breaking their hips. Why is it that they're not breaking their hips, but other people are breaking their hips? What's going on?
Kids fall all the time, right? We fall as well. These things happen in all areas, all stages of life. But I think the number one element is reduced bone density.
We've talked about that.
We have talked about that.
You should go and check that episode out. We talked about reduced
it was
bone
the
density.
Osteoporosis. We talked about osteoporosis and sarcopenia.
Sarcopenia, I love that word.
Yeah. And osteopenia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Bunch of penis.
Yeah.
And important, and also like that, the nature of becoming less functional, flexible, balance and strength. All these things decline very slowly, incrementally over time to the point where it's almost like this is the pointy end. A fall that leads to a hip fracture leads to some very, very alarming statistics. Do we want to have a look at some of those numbers?
Come on,
Evan?
hit me with some of the statistics about, I was reading some stuff about, from 65 to 75 to even 85, the impact, increases dramatically over that time.
Yeah, well, how about we go from the lower ages up because it's there's a range of negative responses. There's a range of problems that happen, and let's say a person has had a hip fracture, and some of the stats that we bounced around were from even the 60s, which is very young.
Yeah.
Like I'm not that far.
Yeah, I'm
5 years. You're a long way.
Yeah.
But I'm 5 years away from 60. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, even just reading it, I know this stuff, but when you read it and the words jump out at you, you're just like, damn. So the big things are the loss of function and the inability to get back to your pre-fall functional state, even at age 60 and above. So someone has a fall, as someone has a fracture, and you would normally have some rehabilitation, you'd have physio, you'd want to do a bunch of things to get back to your pre-function state as much as possible, but the numbers are not great.
Yeah.
It's more likely that you will not get back to your pre-fracture function, your pre-fall function, over the age of 60 than, so it's more than halfway.
So when you say your pre-fall function, are we talking about how far you can walk?
Yep.
What you can do at the gym?
Yes.
Are we talking about just, every day getting out of bed?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about?
Every day physical function, your work, your hobbies, your social life, your family engagement, the things that you love to do, everything slows down. And of course it becomes a vicious cycle. The less you do, the more at risk you become, the more likely you are to have another fall. And also, we talk about it all the time in this world of aging, your multiple comorbidities.
Oh, multiple comorbidities. We love that.
Different factors. You might have arthritis, you might have osteoporosis, you may have some cognitive decline. All of these things escalate with less and less movement. And why are people moving less? Why do you think people are going to move less after a hip fracture?
Because it hurts.
It hurts. It's fear.
Yes.
They don't want to fall again. You don't want to fall again. So I'm going to reduce, what I do. I'm not going to put myself in a challenging situation, that's what you need under strict circumstance and conditions. So you can be challenged, but not in a way to lead to more falls and fractures, in a way to, hopefully lead to better function.
So it also has other impacts on just your regular physical health, like not just your movement, but like if you're not moving, that affects your heart, that affects your blood pressure, that affects your
sleep. Affects your sleep, affects your digestion, your bowel and bladder, all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. We weren't made to sit. We're sitting here, but we actually weren't designed to sit for long periods of time. And the more you do that, the worse it is for us as humans.
So that's just like what's happening in your 60s. What about when you're getting a little bit older? What are we talking about?
Yeah, that's where those compounding health conditions can make things even worse. So we've got a list of a bunch of things here: arthritis, hypertension, diabetes, osteoporosis. These all will lead to worse or reduced outcomes from the rehabilitation period itself and in that post world after that. I mean, we're talking about some of the stats we got here is mortality within 1 year of a fracture. So dying within 1 year of a fracture.
I'm alarmed. Before you've even told me the number, I'm worried.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. And so look, every year, 19,000 people have hip fractures. And most of those, nearly all of them, are in their 60, 65 age group plus. But the mortality rate, if you are 65, it's not that old. People are just retiring at that age and, looking.
Well, they're not even retiring yet. The retirement age is 67 or something now.
It's pushing out, right? And people are hoping for that time of life to be free and to do great stuff and travel and get back into things that the reality is, if you have a hip fracture at 65 or above, 1 in 4 people will be dead within a year.
Whoa.
It's about 26%. 26% of people with a hip fracture over 65 years of age die within 1 year.
Yeah. And that goes up, yes, or that's across a spectrum of ages. But they say that, like, if you're having it in your 80s and that, it's it's really serious.
Well, it is a stat I found. It's just alarming. And 75 years and over, that 26% rises to 40%. So we're heading towards 1 in 2 people dying. You've got a 50, you're 1 in 2 chance of dying within 1 year, only 1 year. And of course, those who survive 1 year, they have a much shorter life expectancy overall than those who don't fracture. So
what do we do about this?
Well, we talk a lot about exercise and functional activity and good rehabilitation. One thing that was very interesting that I found, let me just find it, is the time to surgery. So if you have a hip fracture, most people require surgery, and they may have a pin and plate, or have hip replacement, or arthroplasty, partial hip replacement. Another interesting stat, cost to the whole system, those 19,000 falls a year in Australia, $600 million.
Wow.
Huge reason for hospital admissions, and the cost is massive. And I'll quote a geriatrician, Professor Jacqueline Close, very well respected in the age world. And she said this: don't let the sun set twice before a hip fracture repair. Don't let the sun set twice. So 48 hours, if there is a delay between the fracture and the repair, the surgical repair, 48 hours, the outcomes are much worse.
Okay.
Every day surgery is delayed. She says 2 days are added to the length of stay in hospital alone. The sooner you operate, the quicker patients can get walking and go home back on their feet. So that's a key thing. And I thought that was quite interesting. And it's not something that you and I can control, here, but it's good to put that information out there and push the system. Awareness and information is power, and push the system. And the system is responding to, Professor Jacqueline and people of that caliber, where the numbers are coming back to about 36 hours. It's an average of about 36 hours, which is great. The sooner the better. And that all relates to the whole mechanics of our health system.
So one of the things that I've picked up, and, again, I'm not a medical professional, but is the importance of the physio after the surgery as well.
Absolutely. And of course, I'm a physio and we work in aged care, and we're here to promote that. But it's a no-brainer in a sense. But it's amazing how many people don't do much rehab at all. Look, in the aged care specific space, and if people are coming from an aged care facility with dementia into the hospital system, the hospital system is not well equipped to manage people with dementia, and often they will be sent back to the facility without any rehabilitation. They would say that they're not it's not practical for them to have a rehabilitation because the system is not set up for them. So they come back to us, physios and OTs and allied health professionals in aged care facilities, and we will, where it's available, thankfully we work with great clients who value physio, and there's a lot of physio available to someone in that situation who comes back to a facility. Good reason to find a facility if you're looking for a loved one that has a good physio program, that values physio and OT, and that, that's a good question to ask. What happens if my loved one has a fracture and comes back to this facility? We're just digressing a little bit there, but it's an important thing because some facilities have a lot less than others. So good physio, so good question to ask. And we will have a structured rehab program, certainly nowhere near as much as you get in a rehab facility. They'll get physio 2 to 3 times a day, hours at a time.
And straight away. From what I've seen, they're getting them up walking.
Day one.
Yeah.
If it's possible to get them up day one. That was one of the other stats as well from the professor. She said, the quicker you can get a post-fracture patient up day one, the much better the outcomes overall. And I mean, when I was a student and going through, we used to wait 2 or 3 days. You'd sort of do some passive exercise and then some active exercise and just start the move. But now we've found that you've got to get them up straight away. And there's no necessarily, an orthopedic surgeon friend of mine said, the hips and the glue and the cement is no better than it was in the 90s, but the protocols are better. Yeah. And they found that, of course, you want to be cautious and careful over the time, but they found getting people up quicker has better results overall.
Yeah, I was recently visiting someone in a rehab facility, and this person was up and they were really committed to their physio, and they were improving, and there was someone else in the same room, and every little movement, oh, it hurts, and and like, when I went back,
that would be me.
Yeah, but I went back 2 weeks later, and that person still was pretty much bedridden, whereas the other person was walking out of the hospital,
getting up and going.
So I think, even though it hurts, push through. The physios know what they're doing, the doctors know what they're doing with this.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's that will component, the ability to deal with pain, which is never fun. I don't love that one, but there is that moment of, okay, we've got to just really push hard to get through, because the less you do, the more pain you will have as well. And the more sedentary we are.
There's going to be pain. You're going to have it now or later. Just pick.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Yeah.
So what else can we do? Well, people should continue on with, I would say, I'm a big advocate, obviously. People should continue on with a structured, tailored to their situation, their needs, their likes and abilities, physio graduated program. Yeah. And you might go from your rehab with, a huge amount of physio twice a day, 3 times a day, come out of rehab. You may have physio at home if you're coming back home, which is great, 2 or 3 times a week.
Home care.
Home care is massive. And, of course, it's a growing area. The government, of course, are putting a lot of more focus on that and funding. And why? To keep people at home longer so that they can be functional, so that they can be in the place where they want to be. Of course, people would generally, by and large, want to be at home longer, as the place where they love and, where all the memories are, and rather than to go into an aged care facility. And there's a lot of funding and programs to do that, and we're doing that ourselves, which we'll talk about as we go.
So I think one of the things that we need to remember is the bad news was the 26%, but the good news is that means 74% of people are surviving, but it is having an impact on their life. So if you are in this situation where you do fall, 1, surgery as soon as you can. 2, physio as soon as you can. 3, ongoing program of development, so that you are exercising, so that you're not having the multiple comorbidities impacting you in all these different areas. Action is required.
Yeah, absolutely, and value it. Think about the small investment in those elements to keep you functional, strong, flexible, on your feet, getting the modifications at home that you need. Don't, resist those things. Oh, I don't want my house to look like some sort of institution. Well, do you want to stay here? A couple of handrails in opportune places around the bathroom and that sort of thing can make all the difference for a person staying on their feet and reducing their likelihood of fall and fracture, and being able to be and live and do what they want to do in the place what they love. So I think there's small things that can make a big difference, and ongoing therapy and ongoing checkups with OT as well, and a check-in, how things are going. Do we need to provide any other different types of equipment? There's lots of great equipment, aids and equipment and devices that can help people stay at home longer, stay on their feet longer, and help to improve their chances of a great recovery after fracture. So we've looked at the accident that changes everything. It doesn't have to change everything. There are a number of things that can be done. There's more coming up from the Aging Better podcast. We'd love to tell you about a whole bunch of things that are happening in relation to area of falls prevention. And we're going to be having some resources that are going to be supporting the different episodes. And so there's lots of exciting stuff coming up. Keep watching for Aging Better with Jazdacare. Come on. That's us. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Aging Better podcast. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, follow us, and share it with someone. I'm John Riley. Thank you.